Hello, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to introduce you Luca Borghi, who is going to say today the Magistral Conference. Professor Luca Borghi is very important in the history of medicine in Italy and also in the rest of Europe. He works in the Università campus Bio-Medico di Roma and is going to make his Magistral Conference about Æsculape. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we have the slides, please? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to speak about Æsculape, but not the god of medicine, but a journal, which is, as you can see, an almost forgotten chapter in our history, our social history. So, as you all know very well, here, I think I need to change the slides. Where is? Okay, so I need to keep this. As you all know very well, the International Society for the History of Medicine recently relaunched its official journal, Vesalius, which was first published in 1995. Keep this for me. And you can see here the cover of the third issue from 1996 compared to the beautiful first number of the new series edited by friend and colleague Francesco Galassi. And since I'm going to be very practical in some passages of my presentation today, allow me to show you that in our digital collection, Blanca, this is the page of where you can find all the collection of Vesalio, but yet we are missing 4 numbers, so if anybody can help us to find them, we will be very grateful and we can complete our online collection. Back to our main topic. For sure, Vesalius is not the Society's first official publication. As early as 1923, just 2 years after the Society's founding in 1921, the Society adopted the pre-existing French journal Æsculape as its institutional publication. Æsculape had been founded in 1911, so 10 years before the foundation of our society, by a then 34-year-old French physician named Benjamin Borde. Then, with the significant support of the journal's general secretary, Jean Avalon, Borde shaped Æsculape from its inception into a remarkable platform for the dialogue between the cultures, which is the main theme of this Congress this year. As its subtitle suggested, the journal was dedicated to exploring literature and arts in the relationship with science and medicine. Of course, Æsculape, as many other journals of the time, had a troubled history due to the 2 world wars. Its publication was disrupted for a first time from 1914 to 1923, which is exactly the year when the collaboration with our society started, and then again, as we will see later, from 1940 to 1949. So my contribution today aims to explore, possibly for the first time, I'm not sure about that, the story of the relationship between the journal Æsculape and the International Society for the History of Medicine, a relationship which lasted for more than 30 years, as we see, until 1955. The reason for this research was that some months ago, I was lucky enough to find and add to the historical collection of my university's library 8 bound volumes of the entire second series of the journal, so including 18 years between 1923 and 1940. You can see here the bound volumes of this journal. Unfortunately, I also quickly realized that something in my collection was missing, specifically the so-called supplement mensuel, monthly supplements, of which there are references at the end of each volume, but they are not there for some unknown reason to me. What were they? They were probably short newsletters, like printed separately at the beginning or the end of each issue of the journal, but apart from the main volume. So for some reason, the collector put them away. For sure, these are also important because, as you can see, at least sometimes, they contain news about our society. So I really hope, once again, that someone in the public is going to help us, to help me, to fill also this gap. This is also a point of research we should do together. This is Benjamin Bord, as I said, the founder and director for many years of the journal Æsculape. And I want to highlight the fact that since its very first editorial in 1911, he challenged the medical community to escape, as he said, as you can see here, to escape from his narrow domain and to take an interest in all the scientific, literary, and artistic manifestations to which an open mind cannot remain foreign. It's a very beautiful program, I think. As a matter of fact, before and after the First World War, Æsculape, true to its mission, was always richly illustrated and built, year after year, a wonderful iconographic collection. As the fourth president of our society, the French Maxime Laniel-Lavastine, wrote somewhere. As you can see, these are the example of the contents from those years, or also these ones, very interesting, also from the iconographic point of view, and these beautiful caricatures, which were quite often a very interesting feature of the journal. This is why, in my opinion, Æsculape's collection is today a veritable gold mine, not only for the general history of medicine and healthcare, but especially for the visual history of medicine. So I really hope we can find practical ways to exploit that richness already present in that collection of journals. But let's focus now on the relation between the journal and the society. I must say that at least at the beginning, there wasn't much, at least as far as I could verify by reading the different issues of the journal. We already said that there was a small line under the title and subtitle of every issue, which ran as follows. In English, of course, official organ of the International Society for the History of Medicine. This was written in the frontispiece of every issue. Then, in every issue, there was also this list of the 13 members of the patronage committee, and we can here single out immediately two very, very important for our society. So the first, the founding president of the TIRA, Jean-Joseph Tricot-Royer, and the future president, already mentioned, Maxime Laniel-Lavastine from France. Tricot-Royer, as we all know, was Belgian. Well, in those first years, I could find only very quick and short mentions of our first 3 congresses, those in Antwerp, Paris, and London, maybe due to the problem I mentioned of the part missing in my collection. While I noticed that much greater attention was reserved to the proceedings of the national societies for the history of medicine, which there is quite a lot of good information. For example, as you can see here from the French, the Italian, the Belgian, the Dutch ones, those are the titles of long accounts of national activities about the history of medicine. So we can underline here probably that the International Society was a federation of national societies, and this is probably why in its official journal at the beginning so much space was dedicated to their special national activities more than to the international ones, which were very, very few at the time at least. So allow me a provocative question also to our 2 former presidents. Shouldn't we rediscover a bit and strengthen this vital relationship between the international society and the national ones? Furthermore, I would add, why don't we we suggest people to do some research about the history of the national societies through this journal, which, as I said, is very rich about that. In the 1925 volume of Æsculape, we find at long last something very interesting for the history of our society. There is in that volume a 15 pages article about our 5th Congress, which was held in Geneva, Switzerland, between the 20 and 24 of July 1925. Apart from this group photo of the congressmen, but actually you can notice that there are already at least 15 women, if I number them correctly among them. For example, in that long article, I could find some information and even a photograph of the quite mysterious president of that Congress, Charles Green Custom, then professor of history of medicine at the University of Geneva, about whom, for example, information is very scarce. So we could start from there to add something about him. And you can also find those at least 8 honorary presidents and vice presidents of that Congress, among them even 2 future presidents of our society, Davide Giordano, the Italian Davide Giordano, you can see he was president in the 1930s, and the already mentioned Maxime Lagnel-Vassine. So the journal is also very interesting to discover the faces of the people who were here before us, as say. And apparently we can also notice that honorary titles were dispensed with great generosity in those times. Then we can finally discover also the face of our founder. So the first president and founder, the Belgian Jean-Joseph Tricot-Royer, because there is also a picture of him with also his writings in that same journal. For example, on that occasion, we know that Tricot-Royer spoke about the history of lepers in some Belgian cities. Of course, apart from the faces of the participants, such long and detailed articles also allow for interesting analysis of what were the main lines of research in medical history in that interwar era. For example, similar articles through gold mines of information, in my opinion, about the International Society and medical history in general can be found in the 1927 and 1931 volumes about the 2 congresses in Leiden, the Netherlands, and Rome, Italy, in those years. Our current president is not here, is in the other room making her presentation, but I want to mention that the 9th Congress of our society was held in Bucharest in September 1932, and here you can see also the president of that Congress, Victor Gomoiu, together with his wife, Victorica, who acted apparently as general secretary of the Congress, and Gomoiu was later president of our society, once again from 1936 until 1946. In the Æsculape reportage about that Congress, for example, just to give you an example, we find a lot of information about the evolution of medicine and healthcare in the Balkan area, always accompanied by very beautiful pictures or photographs of places, on books, of manuscripts, and so on, or about, for example, the historical ways of facing and fighting epidemics and pandemics. Let's not forget, we are in 1932, that the world had recently, in those times, passed through the dreadful experience of the so-called Spanish flu, which of course we all know that had nothing special to do with Spain, but it was called like that for the reason we know well. And since we started speaking of Spain, we were so warmly welcomed to the Spanish capital. I'd like to dedicate now a few remarks about the 10th Congress of our society, which took place here in Madrid as well as in Toledo in September 1935. So once again, the 1936 volume of Æsculape is probably the best source to revive it, apart maybe from some archival documents of whom I don't know very much. Here you have the photo with the unwritten dedication to the journal by none other than Gregorio Marañón. All of you know him, the great Spanish physician, scientist, historian, writer, and philosopher, as rightly the English version Wikipedia remembers him and defines him today, was not only the president of that Congress, like an honorary president, let's say, but apparently he took a very active part in its preparation and scientific program. This is also his dedication, written autograph dedication to the journal, Æsculape. For example, Marañón organized the works of that Congress in this, according to these three main themes, as you can see here: Arabic medicine in Spain, American medicine during the discovering, colonization times, medical folklore in civilized nation, and of course about every one of these topics there are a lot of information more specific in the journal's article. For example, we can discover that there was an ancient books exhibition during the Congress, and in this image you can single out Davide Giordano, who was then in the time the president of our society. We saw him in the middle. There is Arturo Castiglioni, and on the right you have again Gregorio Marañón, and plus an unknown woman to me, which of course is not mentioned in the names after the photograph. There are only the names of the three men in the picture, not of the lady. Another interesting feature of the Congress report on Æsculape are these caricatures of several participants by Spanish artists, which I take it was quite important and famous at the time, at least, Luis López Motos, so like this one, which are, I think, very, very beautiful, very interesting also to know something about the people represented in the drawings. As you can easily understand, thinking that the Congress took place in September 1935, Spain was on the verge of one of the most dramatic periods of its history. And we can also find some echo of that tragedy in our journal, in the volume of Æsculape from 1937, as you can see here. But obviously, within a few years, also the rest of the world would be plunged into the abyss of the Second World War. And this curious image is the one with which Æsculape abruptly stopped its publication with the May issue of 1940. But we know Æsculape was published in Paris, and France was already under attack and was going to be conquered, at least until Paris, as we know, a few weeks later. So after that interruption, it took many years to resume publications. And this happened only at the end of 1949, as you can see from this number. And the founder and first director of Æsculape, Benjamin Bord, was not anymore at the wheel of the journal. His lifelong friend and collaborator, Jean Avalon, had taken his place, as you can see here. The new series contain, as usual, beautiful and informative images, like this very interesting mention of the French surgeon Jules Péan with its operating table of his own design. Some weird advertising. For the first time we have advertising like this. Of course, medical advertising are quite weird after a few years. And also the news that Æsculape by then was also a publisher. So they tried to publish for a while monographic publication, I think in order to exploit its previous rich contents, which were also useful for some monographic publication. Then Benjamin Bord, the journal's founder, died in September 1952. And this creature celebrated him with a moving memorial article by the then president, Maxime Lagnel-Vastine. A couple of years later, between January and April 1955, something happened, and the collaboration between our society and that historic journal ended. Why, I cannot exactly tell, because of course there is nothing in the journal about that decision. I'm going to also to finish this presentation, but I just want to let you with some very practical notes and proposals. Maybe, I don't know, we can also discuss them in some other moment. In my opinion, we must digitize as soon as possible the entire collection of Æsculape. My collection, of course, is available to do that, in order to make its bountiful contents and imagery available to everybody, to researchers from all over the world. Then again, is anybody able to find out those important monthly supplements that are lacking in my collection? I don't know, but I ask everybody to collaborate in this. And the third and last suggestion is let's try to exploit the iconographic treasure of this journal for our research, or for example, to share with a big project like Wikipedia Commons, the photographs of so many of our predecessors in the society, provided we are able to recognize and name them, but in many cases, as we saw, it is quite easy to do. I want to give you just a final hint, and I'm going to finish really. What happened after the end of the collaboration between Æsculape and our society? According to a former General Secretary, Sondervost, since 1936, former President Victor Gomoyu tried to start a new publication called Archives Internationales d'Histoire de la Médecine. But I really made some research on the internet. I couldn't really find anything about that alleged publication. So I don't even know if it started in some moment. I couldn't find anything. More surely, between 1955 and 1962 was published a so-called Bulletin et Mémoire de la Société Internationale d'Histoire de la Médecine, and that is for true because I could find this volume from 1959 with the proceedings of our 16th Congress held in Montpellier in September of the previous year. But how many numbers and why did it stop again, I cannot tell. So what happened basically between 1955 and 1995, when Vesalius was born, needs further investigation. So in my opinion, one of the first commitments for the most ancient and relevant among the societies dedicated to the history of medicine at an international level is about its own history and about its own people. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Borghi. I don't know if there is any question. Please wait, because there is any question for you, please. Sorry, we have 5 minutes.
My name is Trico. The reason why Æsculape started in Paris is that my grandfather studied in Paris. He studied in Louvain until 1878, and then 2 or 3 years in Paris. And in Paris he made a lot of friends, included Bord and so on. And so he was married with a Parisian woman. I have a French grandmother. And so he has always good contacts with all French people. The French Society of the International Society of History of Medicine is the daughter of the French Society of History of Medicine. And many names you quoted in the first editorial board are members of the French Society. That's one. And then I can find for you some missing numbers from Vesalius, I think so. I have a lot of them in Antwerp. I have not so much issues of Æsculape, but probably 1 or 2 supplements. And I send it then to you.
Thank you. I was hoping that for you to be here today because, of course, you are the living link with our history, with the beginning of our history. So maybe we can plan also to write something about the founder and about those early moments and the connection between the International Society and the French Society. Maybe it could also be a way of to having them back in some way.
My grandfather he wished to found the society in 1914, but World War came. He made a paper upon Vesalius in the Sorbonne in Paris in 1914, but it was delayed until 1921, although the first International Congress was in 1920, just 1 year before the society was founded.
Sure. Thank you for these remarks, very useful. That's all. So thank you again for your attention.